Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Paizo Live. Here we are all together to discuss a bunch of stuff. We are still basking in the afterglow of Gen Con, folks. We are fresh and feisty coming off of the biggest show of the year where we debuted the Battle Cry book for Pathfinder, the Starfinder Player Core, the first big rule book for Starfinder. We are jazzed. We are excited. We got a whole bunch of stuff we want to talk about today. And I will be your host. I'm Erik Mona. I am the publisher and chief creative officer at Paizo. And I have assembled a group of folks here today to have a little discussion about a bunch of fun stuff, but primarily adventures. We are talking adventures today on Paizo Friday. And my illustrious panel are the associate publisher Thurston Hillman. We've got the Pathfinder narrative creative director James Jacobs, and Adam Daigle, our director of narrative. So narrative at Paizo is the team that puts together all the Pathfinder adventures. So that is primarily what we are going to discuss today. But before we get into that, I do want to say just one more thing about Gen Con. We had a fabulous Gen Con this year, and I wanted to extend my personal thanks to all of you who came to Gen Con, who we got to talk to in the booth, see up in the Sagamore Ballroom in our massive organized play space. It's so invigorating to meet with so many of you folks in person at that show. If you weren't at Gen Con this year, I assume you're coming next year or the year after that. You got to go. Gen Con is the most fabulous 4 days in gaming, and it's a great opportunity for us to debut some of our new big releases every year and to just kind of like talk to y'all about gaming, not on a screen on Twitch or whatever, but face to face and maybe on the other side of a GM screen rolling some dice. So it's always great to see everybody there. Thank you for coming and telling us about your games. Thank you for checking out the Paizo booth. Thank you especially to all the GMs and volunteers who were up there in the Sagamore Ballroom helping us run our organized play efforts. We could not do this without you, and we're just thrilled every year to have that opportunity. So here we are, boys. We are here to talk about adventures. We're going to talk a little bit about the Pathfinder Adventure Path. We're going to talk a little bit about related products that we haven't talked that much about yet in the Lost Omens line. You know, that's going to be kind of interesting. Got some art, some concept art no one's ever seen before. And then we're going to also talk about some format stuff when it comes to the Pathfinder Society scenarios. So we got a lot of news to share. We got a lot of cool imagery to share. And we're going to get a little retrospective here as well as we talk about, in particular, the Pathfinder Adventure Path line, which really has been the flagship of Paizo with monthly releases starting in July 2007. Look deep, everyone. Look deep into the eyes of myself and especially to Mr. James Jacobs. Those are eyes that have been on monthly deadlines every single month since 2007. And it wasn't that long after we started that Daigle joined us as well. So Thurston has been along as a volunteer and as a fan the whole time and joined us most recently out of this group. But you are looking at some haggard veterans of the Pathfinder Wars here, and we have lots of fun stuff to share with you guys. Welcome, Thirsty, James, and Adam. We are super stoked to have you guys with us today. We are going to, by the way, if there's time, I've got like 3 hours of stuff to talk about in 1 hour. So if there's time, we're going to have a Q&A. So if you've got questions, throw them in the chat, and our friends, the marketing team, will assemble those, and we'll do our best to answer them kind of near the end of the presentation. We're scheduled for an hour. We might go a little bit over, but we're not going to go too far over, guys, because I have my Pathfinder campaign tonight. I cannot be late to my Pathfinder game simply because we're talking about Pathfinder. That just wouldn't be right. First things first. So we will be wrapping this up in about an hour. So, all right, let's get down to business. Let's talk about Pathfinder Adventure Path. Pathfinder Adventure Path started in July 2007, folks. This is the very first installment of the Pathfinder Adventure Path. This is, in fact, look at this. It says preview edition. There's only like 4 of these, I think, left in the world. This was like a home printed version that was printed on the floor of the Origins convention so that we could show business partners and stuff what this crazy thing we are about to launch at Gen Con the following month. So this was Pathfinder number 1, 96-page soft cover volume. We've been doing them ever since. And before we get too far into the big, news and all the new stuff, let's take just a moment to reflect on where we've been. And I would like to ask this illustrious crew, and I'm going to go in reverse order from how long they've been focused on this. So Thirsty, I'm coming. But I would like to know from 3 of you guys, what is your favorite individual monthly volume of the Pathfinder Adventure Path, going all the way back to the beginning? We'll start with you, Thirsty. Which one do you like the best?
And I was gonna say it was almost a tie. It was a tie. I have 2 adventure paths that are near and dear to my heart. The first adventure path I ever played was Second Darkness, and it was one I ran to completion. First one I ran to completion, near and dear to my heart. But this one eked out just a little bit. This is the first volume of Shattered Stars, Shards of Sin, which is the other adventure path I ran to completion. This is done by Greg Vaughn, who you may have seen on another Paizo live. James is wanting to hop in here.
Yeah, you just like that one because it's got goblins that throw poop.
I mean, that's fair. I actually liked it because it was the start of a campaign that went for a long time with friends and was like sort of my escalation of going from doing org play with local org play community to running an adventure path with those org play players. That sort of evolution from doing OP scenarios into let's just do an adventure path. And also because it has super cool vertical dungeon design. And I thought it was really neat. And a whole AP about dungeons really appealed. But even the first one, a level 1 dungeon was let's make you go up and down in a Dark Souls-esque learn the dungeon thing, which is another thing near and dear to my heart. So There's my answer. I love Shattered Star. I love Runelords related stuff in general, but that was a great AP for me.
All right. Now, Thirsty, can you hold that up one more time? Because there's another cool thing about that cover. That NPC there on the front is Sheila Hydemark, the adventure captain of Varizia, who turned into, I think, one of the kind of breakout NPCs throughout all of the adventure path. We've seen her again and again in Pathfinder Society organized play. That's a major NPC. So it's cool that that was your choice, especially given how involved you've been in the organized play program over the years. All right. Thank you, Thirsty. Let's go to Adam Daigle, our director of narrative. Adam, you have had your hand on the rudder of the adventure path for a long time. What is your favorite Pathfinder adventure path monthly volume?
Well, I joined the company as as a developer in the beginnings of Skull and Shackles, which means that a lot of that was already planned out. But the one following that, I actually got to put my Daigleness on a bunch of things. And so I think Pathfinder number 71, Rasputin Must Die, is going to be the one I choose, just because it was such a departure from what we'd normally done, and just the idea of getting. Oh, I'm glad you had that handy because I'm still
almost like it was going to be one of my.
Still unpacking from moving, so yeah. I mean, the fact that we got to blend real world stuff into fantasy, ordering the art for that was super fun. Having Larry Ann with a Maxim machine gun on the back of a cart. It's the toolbox opener.
Yeah,
that's a great piece. And Rob and I worked really hard on getting the research, the 1917 research, and getting it all translated into Pathfinder rules. It was a ton of fun. Yeah, that piece is so fun. Just look at how happy she is.
I mean, how could you not be happy firing a Gatling gun when you're from Fantasyland? This was, a quick anecdote about this. This is one of those times, and it's happened about 5 times at Paizo, where someone has made just a comment in a meeting that almost was like a joke, and then they're a hushed silence falls over the room, and everyone looks at each other and goes, "Oh yeah, we should totally do that." So that was, and I think it was the title, Rasputin Must Die.
Yeah, it was somebody said that we should do an adventure called I think it was either Die Rasputin Die or Rasputin Must Die or something like that. And the entire meeting was like.
And our mutual friend Brandon Hodge wrote it and did an absolutely wonderful job. So great choices. Both of you guys picked seminal, awesome adventure path volumes. speaking of seminal, awesome adventure paths, we have Mr. Adventure Path himself, the creator of essentially the adventure path. He's the guy who wrote Burnt Offerings, the very first volume of the Pathfinder Adventure Path, the Goblin Song, the goblins in general. Mr. James Jacobs, you have been, in one fashion or another, involved in pretty much every adventure path this company has ever done for Pathfinder. What is your favorite of all of them?
Surprise!
Hey!
I mean, if this is the first Pathfinder Adventure Path, I got to write it. I got to basically reinvent. I mean, we were moving away from the previous Dungeon and Dragon magazines, so this was a chance for us to really get into some more, R-rated content. So it was a fun kind of way to stretch our legs, find boundaries and stuff like that. And I have to show off my copy too of the preview edition.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's a preview edition because
a little smaller.
It's slightly smaller. It's just a little bit tinier. So it's hard to pick because there's so many of them that I really like. I also got to write volume 100 and volume 200, which is like, I guess, part of the benefit of being in there and muscling your way in to be the author sometimes. But yeah, it's after 200 plus months of doing this, it's still fun. I'm still here. So
awesome. Well, great. I mean, great choice, James. The first one, that was a pretty important one. But
this was,
I will follow your lead because I've got one that's a favorite, but it's number 19, Howl the Carrion King, which I wrote. And just on a personal level, the Adventure Path's been such an important part of Paizo's legacy, legacy of Fire Adventure Path, that for me, about the time I wrote that, I started becoming much more focused on publishing and kind of running the whole operation. And so I haven't had as much time as I would have liked to have written a bunch of them, but I did squeeze this one in. I think you, in fact, came to me, James, and were like, could you write an Adventure Path volume for me in like 3 weeks? And I'm like, I sure can. And it won an Emmy, and I was really pleased to get to participate in just a small part, 1/220th of what Paizo has done to date in this line. And so I really appreciate you inviting me to be a part of that, James, and it was a real honor to get to write one of those. So super stoked to be a part of the Adventure Path. Now,
Eric, that one's also one of my first freelancer credits for Paizo.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, all the best writers worked on Pathfinder number 19. You guys still available on Paizo.com.
It's also where we introduced Pugwumpies.
Oh yeah,
everybody loves Pugwumpies.
I know. I wrote an encounter where you got to chase a loose goat through a cactus field while rolling basically disadvantage on all of your dice, which is pretty fun. So anyway, cool, great choices, everybody. Some like mine, maybe a little self-serving. That's fine. They're still great pieces of role-playing history. Speaking of role-playing history, James, your adventure that you picked was the first volume, not just a Pathfinder Adventure Path in general, but also the first volume of the Rise of the Runelords Adventure Path. And before we get into the future of Pathfinder Adventure Path, I think we should spend a little bit of time talking about the present of Pathfinder Adventure Path. We have got another Runelords Adventure Path, October, November, and December of this year, called Revenge of the Runelords. James, take us into Revenge of the Runelords. Talk a little bit about that. What's that all about?
This is a high-level mythic adventure path. You start at 12th level, you end up 20th level, and you get to become full-on mythic heroes. It's one that has been kind of long in the making. People have let me know quite a lot that they were frustrated they never got to fight Runelord Xandergul, the most powerful of the Runelords, at full power. It's like, well, he's like he's the most powerful, arguably the most powerful wizard that's ever been on the planet. He's mythic. You got to be mythic to do anything, to live against him. And now that we've got the mythic rules, well, it seemed like a good time. So this is a place where we're trying to drawing a lot of storylines together. You'll see the Ashen Man on the cover of the first one. You'll see Lyra LaRue, who is a character in Seven Dunes from Sandpoint on the second one. So it's a lot of these like tendrils of Runelord lore kind of congealing into this latest. I don't want to say final, but I mean it's kind of the final. We're kind of out of Runelords by the time your player characters get through this one, unless they TPK, which I'm sure.
Or unless this thing sells really well, and a couple years later, I go, James, give us another runelords adventure pack.
Yeah, it turns out there's a lot of letters that start with the letter L. We got Rattlesnakes of the Runelords, Resurrections of the Runelords, Rompus of the Runelords. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Rattlesnakes of the Runelords. That's going to be a great one. All right, so October, November, December, 3 more monthly volumes of the Pathfinder Adventure Path coming your way. So we are closing out the year with the way this whole thing started with our old friends, the Runelords.
There's Xanadu and Sorcery clashing in front of some sort of elephant something or other. Who knows what that could be, in front of some sort of doom flavored doors. Everything hitting at once. And there's Magnamar. People who might recognize that creature as a watcher of Jandalay. They show up and loom over worlds that have like only days to live before they're destroyed. So who knows what he's doing in Magnamar?
But everything's going to be okay for Golarion and for the player.
That's up to your player characters. You screw it up, we have to start a new campaign.
Oh no! All right, cool. Well, let's take a second now to talk about what happens after these campaigns are done. Some of the most popular campaigns that we have done in the Pathfinder Adventure Path line, we have been honored to bring out in collected hardcover editions. I've got, since we're doing kind of a show and tell here today, I've got a big pile of those I'd like to kind of show off to everybody. This is the very first one that we did. This is the Rise of the Runelords Adventure Path. This is for first edition Pathfinder. That was kind of the proof of concept, and back then the idea of doing compiled adventure paths at all was somewhat controversial, among the staff. Like maybe this would be the only time we ever did it. We waited till the anniversary of Pathfinder before we ever even put this thing out. Hugely popular, gave a whole nother sort of generation the opportunity to play this classic Rise of the Runelords campaign. We followed that up with this big boy. This is Curse of the Crimson Throne. This is James, this was like the second adventure path we ever published. And so this is a nice big thick monster. 6 adventures. We used to do 6 adventures in these older adventure paths. So if you really want to dedicate like an entire decade of your gaming time to one adventure, this is a great way to do it. You can't do much better than Curse of the Crimson Throne. Still one of the most popular adventure paths that we've ever done. In the second edition era, we've been lucky enough to collect 3 hardcover adventure paths, starting with this big boy, Abomination Vaults. This was one of the most popular adventure paths for second edition Pathfinder, kind of played off of the events of the beginner box that we released for the second edition. And we put this out in hardcover not too long ago. We also did a 5e adaptation of Pathfinder Adventure Path, Abomination Vaults. And I'm very pleased to say that as of just a couple of weeks ago, that adaptation, the 5th edition D&D adaptation of Abomination Vaults, is live on D&D Beyond. There should be a link in the chat for folks who want to check that out. If you are a 5e player, or you always wanted to get your group to play Pathfinder, but they will only play the world's oldest role-playing game, this is a great way to get them to check out the world and the lore of Pathfinder. That is available now on D&D Beyond. Go back in time to 2007 and tell Erik and James that one of our adventure paths would be on D&D's official thing. We probably would not have believed you, to be honest, but we've been working with the folks over at Wizards. They've been great, and we're excited to have one of the most popular Pathfinder second edition adventure paths on their platform for folks who are still playing and who enjoy playing D&D 5e. Of course, if you like Pathfinder, you can get this on Paizo.com, a very popular adventure path, and we're thrilled to have that in whatever game you want to play, provided you want to play those 2 games. After that, we also have this guy, Fists of the Ruby Phoenix. This is a fighting tournament themed adventure set in the continent of Tian Sha on the other side of the world of Golarion. This also is a very popular, high octane, high excitement fighting adventure path. This one starts at 11th level, so you can actually play this one and then go right into this one if you would like. You're going to be big heroes in here. The adventure fighting tournament needs big heroes here. What a great combination. That is available for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Just recently, we released Gatewalkers, the Gatewalkers Adventure Path for 2nd Edition Pathfinder, and that is now available in hardcover as well. And that is 3 full adventures, updated a little bit based on some player feedback. And that is our newest release with our new hardcover adventure paths. We also have special editions. I don't know if you can see the, ooh, look at the shiny gem-like quality of that printing. Pretty cool. If you're a collector and you want something a little bit more like fine, you know, a little faux leather hoity-toity, you can do that. James is showing Kingmaker, another adventure path in compilation form that we did for 2nd edition. And these compiled adventure paths have been incredibly popular for us. And that leads us to probably the biggest news of this particular stream. And that is that starting in 2026, we will be changing the format of Pathfinder Adventure Path for the very first time. And instead of monthly 96-page installments, we will be releasing quarterly, hardcover, all-in-one adventure paths just from the get-go. So you're not going to need to wait a bunch of time until we compile everything. We will be putting one of these out a quarter. If you're a subscriber to the Pathfinder Adventure Path line, you will be now a subscriber to these hardcover editions. Hardcover editions will run about $79.99. They'll be about 256 pages a piece, and they will come out every quarter. They will not come out every 3 months. Because we want to release something at Gen Con and we want to release something in time for people to get for Christmas. So they will release kind of at different times throughout the year. The first one is going to be coming out in, March of 2026. Actually, I skipped something, guys. Holy moly.
You did.
Holy moly. Before any of that happens, in February of 2026, we are going to officially release a compiled version of the 4 adventures of the Season of Ghosts adventure path. Season of Ghosts. How could I forget? It is, by, I think, pretty wide acclamation, the most popular adventure path that we have released for 2nd edition. Ever since it came out, people have been asking us, when are you going to compile Season of Ghosts? When are you going to compile Season of Ghosts? The answer is February 2026. We will be putting out a hardcover edition of Season of Ghosts for Pathfinder 2nd edition. It'll have fully remastered rules. It will be compatible with the current version of Pathfinder 2nd edition. And we are super stoked about that. Before we get into the new format and the first new adventure path in hardcover, James or Adam, will one of you tell us a little bit about Season of Ghosts?
Yeah, I can jump on there. It's always interesting when people like, you should do this, you should do this. It's like, yeah, that's a good idea. We've been planning on doing that for a couple years and it's in the works, but we can't tell you about it yet. So it's always this weird kind of struggle to like keep those secrets and then be able to, debut them in places like this is always a lot of fun. Season of Ghosts is a 1st to 12th level adventure path. It's a 4-act adventure path. So it does things a little bit differently than most other adventure paths. And yeah, it's one that I'm particularly proud about. I just always like, the spooky horror themed adventure paths, but the authors we got on this one were just particularly amazing. And with all of these compilations, it's always fun to like go back through, fun and informative and important to go back through like Paizo.com and Reddit and other online forums just to look at what people have said about them and like trying to treat all of your feedback as playtest feedback in effect, so that we go in and we make changes and improvements and adjustments. Like in this new hardcover version, your kineticist won't be able to ruin the entire challenge of building up food by creating 1,000 cherry trees. That's been accounted for. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's was a relatively easy one to adjust over to the remastered rules, because when we decided we were going to do remastering for all of our rules going forward, this one was already right in the middle of being worked on. I was like, well, I don't know if this is going to come out with OGL or this or that, the other thing. So it kind of did ourselves a little bit of favor in the before times by fixing it up. So yeah, that one's February. So
February,
check it out.
yes. So check that out. And then in March is the first brand new all-in-one 2026 adventure path. And that one is called Hellbreakers. Hellbreakers. It is part of an ongoing storyline that we are calling the Hellfire Crisis. Some of you probably saw the Battle Cry book initiates a war, a full-on war between the two most adversarial nations in the world of Pathfinder subset modern era. And that would be Cheliax, the Infernal Empire of Cheliax, and the sort of goodly, democratic good guys from Andoran. They are finally throwing off their gloves and going to a big battle. And that is called the Hellfire Crisis. And that kind of kicked off already with this book in Battlecry. But we are going to be touching upon the Hellfire Crisis quite a lot. Not just next year, but right now, like in this stream, we're going to talk a little bit about it. So let's start with a overview of the Hellbreakers adventure path. What's going on in Hellbreakers, and why should Pathfinder players be super stoked to get to participate in this big battle between Andoran and Cheliax?
Well, Hellbreakers, it is kind of like the spark for this entire conflict, for this entire war. It kicks off probably a couple of weeks after the Battle of Hell Knight Hill event that we did at Gen Con at the launch of Battlecry. And a lot of Hellbreakers deals with Isger and Isger getting their own freedom from pulling away from being a vassal state of Cheliax. And in that, you join up with a group called the Hellbreakers that are kind of rabble-rousers that are trying to push against, Chelaxian oppression, and you join up with them and make that a thing. It uses a lot of the technology from Battlecry, so we've got some skirmishing fights in there. But there's also, it's not all just big mass combat and brawling. Sometimes you got to infiltrate a ball, and see right there. But yes, so this is run by Michelle Kim, and it starts you off at first level and gets you to 9th or 10th. I can't remember exactly which one. I think it's 10th. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so that is the Hellbreakers Adventure Path. That comes out in March. Price on that's going to be $79.99. Same price as Season of Ghosts. And it's going to really, as you said, kick off that whole Hellfire Crisis. Now, if you want more information about the Hellfire Crisis in general, a very good place to go is going to be a product that I don't believe we've talked about in public before, and that comes out in April. It's 128 pages. It is in the Lost Omens line, so it is a campaign setting based product, and it is called Hellfire Dispatches, and I believe we've got a cover for the Hellfire Dispatches. So there you go. Oh boy, some days it's good to be a member of the Andoran army, and other days maybe not so much. So this is the cover of Pathfinder Lost Omens Hellfire Dispatches. This is going to be kind of an overview of the conflict as a way to have it take place in the background of your campaigns, as a way to liven up the Hellbreakers adventure path, or as a way to just kind of explore what happens in Golarion when two of the most powerful nations of the Inner Sea region finally clash with one another. And I am super excited about this. This is something we've literally been setting up since the beginning of the campaign setting, and it's finally happening. And one of the things that makes me so excited about this is that we have got the opportunity to have our on-staff concept artist Kent Hamilton put some real thought into what the soldiers and officers of this conflict look like. And today we want to share with you a couple of images of the Cheliax portion of that. So let's take a look at some of Kent's images. And here we have infantry concept and color guide. So this is like the what the Chelaxian infantry looks like, or at least some of them. The beautiful sort of helmet that Kent has described. There's sort of this Baroque aspect to a bunch of the outfits that these folks have. Now remember, they worship devils. They are not good guys, and so these are adversarial folks. Or I mean, if you want to play bad guys, you could do that too, I guess. There's no judgment here. That's fine. But these guys are meant to be adversaries. Here we have an infantry champion, and this dude is wow, what a helmet on this guy. Pretty exciting. Some of these characters will be in Hellfire Dispatches. Some of them will show up in other places as well, including in miniature form. And so we had some of these characters on the battlefield of Hell Knight Hill in the Sagamore Ballroom at Gen Con. And Thirsty, maybe you could jump in real quick. Oh, look at that. That is like a war wagon kind of a thing, right?
Siege engine that we had. Yeah. So recently we just announced a partnership with my mini factory in Titan Forge, who are going to be doing 3D sculpts of miniatures. That's, if you saw me looking down while Eric was talking, I was actually rummaging through a box I just keep by my computer. Here's like a Hell Knight Signifer, a classic. Cool. We are doing all sorts of minis related to Hellfire Crisis and other projects. We've got a whole ton to announce. We don't have much to talk about today. We started that off with Gen Con, showing some of those minis. We're actually going to have those for sale in the coming weeks. Very, very exciting time. But, when you start off a war, if you're like me, who has a lot of miniatures in the basement and plays a lot of miniature war games, you want to have all the things you need to do to tell that war. So we're going to be supporting that with more to come in the coming months.
Yes, and that will be files you can download and print at home, stuff you can buy pre-printed. We got all kinds of stuff coming. Yeah. This is preview land, folks. There's not 100% information on all this yet. It's coming, but rest assured, if you liked some of Kent's drawings, you will be able to get miniatures of some of this stuff as well. And look at this one, Chilaxian Cavalry. Amazing, amazing. We are hard at work on Andoran's side of the thing as well, but this kind of, I think I'm going to, enough concept art that we can't show everything. We want to get you guys to I don't mean to be like sort of commercial here, but it's in the book, right? So check out Hellfire Dispatches. That is coming out in April of 2026, and that is going to be your kind of ground zero for information, not just about the conflict from Hellbreakers, but indeed across the whole of the Inner Sea area. And it is a big deal, folks, and we're super, super excited to finally get to tell that story. But it's a big story. It's not a story that can be told in only 3 adventures from levels 1 to 10. Surely this is a time for higher level heroes. And that brings us to the second standalone adventure path in 2026, and that is going to be entitled Hell's Destiny. Yes, the fate of Cheliax and Andoran, and indeed the entire Inner Sea region, will be determined in the Hell's Destiny adventure path for 11th to, high-level adventurers. James Daigle, you're going to want to tell us a little bit about the Hell's Destiny adventure path. I'll tell you this, it launches in June. It's $79.99 and it's 256 pages. But what else about this adventure path would folks like to know?
It sure does. So this one's headed up by John Compton. Hell's Destiny starts you off at 10th and gets you all the way to 20th level. This continues the Hellfire Crisis storyline. And you can either play it as the Hellbreaker. If you went through Hellbreakers, you can continue with that same group. If you didn't end up playing that, you can, start fresh, ready to go. It'll all make good sense to you. It starts off over in the Western theater of the conflict in Corentin, and then works around kind of like the Hell Coast, even goes down to Kari, because like Cheliax does have a little bit of land on the other side of the Arch of Eridan. So there's some, nautical stuff in there. You end up trying to recruit people and get people on the side of Andoran for the big fight. So, you even deal with some Azarketi and some Strix and stuff like that, trying to get enough people who have some sort of investment in this conflict to help throw off, the yoke of Cheliax. About midpoint through there, you do officially join in with Andoran forces, and you start a drive deep into Cheliax, into the heart of Cheliax and Agorian. And then without spoiling too much, you might go elsewhere a little more hellish. So definitely tune in and help put down the oppressive Cheliax forces.
Now, Adam, would it be fair to say that at the end of this conflict, good will win 100% and everything's going to be just like completely fixed in the world of Golarion?
Eric, I don't think a single war has ended that way.
Oh, well, how interesting. I wonder what was going to change as part of that. Well, one thing that's going to change just in part of this format switch is not only will we have the compiled, all-in-one from the start adventure paths coming out quarterly, we will also have, like this Gatewalkers, the special editions as well. So collectors will have the opportunity to get, like a really nice faux leather special edition of these things. You can see a mock-up of the Hellbreakers one. Won't necessarily look exactly like that, but you get the idea, and so that is really, really exciting. I would like in particular for James and Adam to talk a little bit about, so what are some of the benefits, not only to you guys, but to the customers and everything about like this format change? What does that mean for people in terms of just the quality and the cohesiveness of these adventure paths?
Well, I'm hoping it'll make them easier to run. First of all, it's certainly making them easier to develop. They're more efficient. They're, if we, in the previous edition, the previous way of doing it, if we had something in book 1, we couldn't really reference it in book 2 or book 3. So there was a lot of cases where key NPCs in one book didn't really have a strong role in the other one, or if a big sort of subsystem or something like that had a big role in the third book, we couldn't really talk about it in the first one. Having it all in one book lets us do all of that at once, have it spread out all over the place, lets us reference things across the board. If we introduce a fun monster in volume 1, he gets to be used throughout the entire adventure path rather than just in the first 60 pages of the adventure. So that's one really big fun part. Another excellent element as well is although these two are both being written by several authors, the number of authors we get to write these is going to range from like four down all the way to 1. It depends upon the adventure path.
1,
but
we might have a whole adventure path written by one person.
Yeah, we might.
Who would be crazy enough
to
write an entire adventure path by themselves?
I don't know. Some crazy person with.
It's James. Okay. Anyway, go on, James.
Even if it's not one person writing an entire adventure path, when we're developing it, we will have all of everything at once, and we'll be able to make it feel more cohesive, feel more self-contained. We've seen a lot of complaints from people running. It's like, well, this storyline didn't get carried all the way through, and that's because of the nature of a serialized adventure format, where everything has to be go, go, go in a month. Then we shunt everything in book 2, then at book 3. This lets us look at a more holistic, inclusive way of developing an adventure. It doesn't have to be something that we have a specific limited amount of time. Since they have to come out in a 3-month window rather than 1 month, one month, we've got a lot more room to make them all sing better, basically.
That's awesome. That's great.
I think another great thing is, like, there's been so many times developing an adventure path where you get to like the last volume or next to last volume, and you're like, oh man, this would have been really great to seed something, but like that first book is already at the printer being printed and stuff like that. But now you can do that. You get to the end and you're like, oh wait, I'm going to put a little foreshadowing here. I'm going to sprinkle this there. And like being able to have your hands in all of it at once without, having to segment it all out is great. Not having a 96 page per month production grind is pretty awesome too.
That's good for you.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily good for the customer.
Right.
One other good thing though for the customer is, like, when you're a GM and you want to run this adventure path, you want to tinker with it, you want to adventure, you want to make it your own. You're gonna have the entire story day 1. You don't have to wait for a month or 2 months later to get it. That also means we get a lot more efficient. We don't have to use pages to like, here's what's coming in the future, so we don't have to waste that. Can just go right into more adventure content. So it's just a lot more efficient, a lot more. It's the way big campaigns like this should be produced, but it's a way we never were able to do because we never had the resources. When we first started, we were just scrambling.
Oh boy!
And paying for an entire book and having that all done on time was impossible. It took us 15 so years, but here we are.
Yeah. And another thing too, just to kind of pull out of the what is good for the GM or what's even good for the player, there's also an element here that I think is important to point out, which is something that's good for the retailer. One of the challenges that we've had since the beginning of Pathfinder Adventure Path is customer goes into a store and maybe they've got volume 3 or volume 2, but they're sold out of volume 1. We often sell out of volume 1 and have piles of volumes 2, 3, 4, and a lot of people aren't going to be super satisfied just buying a PDF of the first one and then getting the other ones in print. So this is a good way to keep this stuff in print. People on the distribution and retail side reorder the compilation adventure pass as something they keep in stock for their customers, whereas over the years, especially the sort of monthly periodical version, instead of reordering the one that just sold out, maybe the retailer ups their orders of the next month's, which is like not necessarily great if you're trying to collect the whole thing. So we're really excited about this compiled version. This is something, honestly, the folks who've been working on the adventure path for a while were like, hey, can we do this? And we'd be like, I don't know. But then the more compilations we did, the more we were able to look at the reaction of the customers, the reaction of retailers, our distribution partners. It all just kind of comes together. So starting in March of 2026, we'll be releasing the Hellbreakers adventure path. We'll follow that up I wrote it down. Hell's Destiny, June of 2026, and then in August of 2026. Someone will break my fingers if I say any more.
You can't tell them much more. That's right.
I want to say one thing though. The adventure path that we are not naming yet, that is going to come out at Gen Con 2026. Will be focused on one of the most storied, most dangerous, and I think for my money, most exciting mega dungeons in the setting. James, is it fair to call it a mega dungeon? It's not really even a dungeon per se.
I mean, if you quantify a dungeon as like a place with a lot of rooms and a lot of factions and things going on in there.
Yeah, I do.
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay. But it's not strictly an underground like series of torture chambers or whatever. No. We've said no. Stop. So we said too much. Sorry.
There are torture chambers.
One more thing.
There are torture chambers.
Okay. All right. It was not just torture chambers. So all right, folks. Big adventure coming in August in a setting many of you have heard of that you'll be stoked about. I need to stop talking about this right now or I'm going to blow it. So let's stop talking about that and let's just say August, big dungeon, quote unquote, adventure path. Very exciting. Stay tuned. More information to come soon. Okay, so that's that. There's another one coming in Q4 in time for the holidays. So we will have 4 adventure paths coming out in 2026, just like with the monthly format. Hopefully this is a little bit more digestible for people. We are super stoked about the quality enhancements we're going to be able to do when we're doing the whole thing holistically in one shot. So that is, I think it's fair to say, the biggest news of this session today, but we think this is great news. We're really excited about it. James, you wanted to add something.
Yeah, one thing that I've seen people just constantly asking, I mean, even when we're doing 3-part adventures in the softcover format, our goal is to have at least one of these hardcovers here start at first level.
Oh yeah.
One of these hardcovers end at 20th level, and then the other 2 hardcovers are kind of like a dealer's choice. They might start at first level, they might start higher level, they might go to 20th level. We're definitely going to be servicing the start your campaign at first level and in your campaign at 20th level. They won't always be like Hellbreakers and Hell's Destiny. They won't always lead right into the other. But
in fact, I would say they will seldom lead one to the other.
Yeah.
It's a big war, guys. Come on. All right. Awesome. So that is that. That is the big adventure path news, and it comes in the form of a format change. But that is not the only format change that we want to talk about today. We are also taking a look. We have been taking a very close look at our Pathfinder Society organized play scenarios and the layout and approach we take to those. And Thirsty, you have been heavily involved in that process. I wonder if you could take a moment to update viewers on what is in store for Pathfinder Society organized play scenarios starting in January of 2026.
I sure can, but I'm also just gonna, before I do that really quick, I'm gonna say my favorite thing about this hardback AP change,
please.
which is also just gonna answer a question that I've been seeing pop up in chat a lot. It's also gonna give all of our staff much better opportunity to create those integrated players guides that we will continue to do.
Yes.
So don't worry about that, everyone. I got you, chat. I got you. I got you.
Yes.
All right.
And we're slowly compiling a list of questions from the chat that we will get to. But first, let's talk about Pathfinder Society organized play. Thirsty,
let's talk about organized play. So we have just launched our latest season 7 of organized play, the Year Battle Spark. I think we got some fancy artwork for it too. Pew pew. I'm going to trust our tech people to bring that up. But the Year Battle Spark is the new organized play year. You could see that in this year we're sort of going in line with what's happening in the Hellfire crisis. The Pathfinder Society is getting involved. Now, with that, we've made some changes to how the scenarios have worked. We've been trying to trim down the full size of those, make them a bit more manageable to run for GMs, make them more in line with what we're doing with adventures. We know a lot of people out there are interested in organized play, but they're coming from our other products, and there's a lot of differences, and we want to streamline that approach for them. And that we've had some really great commentary coming out of Gen Con on some of the changes that we've made to the scenarios and what we're doing going forward. We're actually really excited to announce another change that's going to be starting in January with 2 scenarios that we just had up. I'll get our tech people to bring them up again. Starting with 709 and 710, the Chitterwood Walks Part 1 and Shattered Blades. Both of these scenarios are going to represent a big change in organized play starting in January, where we are going to be switching to a model of 2 scenarios per month. Previously, those were coming out sometimes 1 a month with a quest, and then we would do 2 months. We're going to be changing the OP going forward to have 2 scenarios every month. These scenarios are, however, going to be a bit shorter in size. We got a lot of feedback with changes we've done to Starfinder Society to sort of shorten the length of our scenarios to make them a bit easier to run at your local game store that's maybe closing a bit earlier, or at conventions, to make sure people have a time to go to the bathroom between games. That's been pretty important. And so we had a lot of requests for this. Based on the change we did Starfinder, we're actually going to put that in place starting in January with those 2 scenarios. So we're going to be moving them to be 2 to 3 hours in length. We're also going to pull them back to be 1 level range. So that sort of 1st to 2nd level or 3rd to 4th level. We're not going to do the 1 to 4th and then the GM has to do a bunch of prep depending on who shows up to their game. We're going to pull it back to make it easier on our organizers to run and slot into their events. We're going to have, these are still going to award for experience. They're going to give you 10 treasure bundles. They're going to give you reputation with factions. We're also going to pull back on the challenge points with a smaller level range. We're going to go to what Starfinders just started doing with a sort of hard and easy adjustment that GMs can tailor to their groups, how many players they have, what the intensity and desire of the group is. This is all going to be changes that are going to come in place in January. We're really excited about these changes. Again, at Gen Con, I probably had 20 people come up to me, all volunteers, who were like, I'd really like to do this because I can get them in my game stores, or I can, get like a bit of a tighter game in. You can see from that Part 1 scenario we showed earlier, doesn't prevent us from doing some longer form content. Chitterwood Walks, Part 1 means there's probably a Part 2, probably going to link in very well. So we're really, really excited. I am super excited because it's going to let us just take a different approach to these. One change that's also going to come with that, as we're switching to these 2 scenarios every month, is that in December, we're going to be releasing our final Pathfinder quest adventure that we've been doing occasionally. Those are really meant to be very introductory adventures. Now I think we have 27 of those. We have a lot of introductory. Yeah, it's a lot. What we are going to be doing, though, that is very exciting, is using those resources for some things that, unlike Erik, I'm not going to spoil just yet, but we have some plans for those resources that are probably some of the most exciting things that we've got to look into. In fact, I was talking to Adam just the other day about that. We're going to announce it shortly, but there's going to be some really fun content, whether you're an organized play person or not an organized play person. These are probably going to work with both of them, and that's just it's different. We're going to do some different things, possibly involving some, neat things, who knows. So that's really it from the organized play front. We're really excited again to see these changes come into effect, and like anything, we're going to see the community's feedback to it. We got a lot of feedback asking us to make this change, so we're pivoting already. But like anything, we're gonna fix and make it right as needed. And if we need to maybe reintroduce some longer form content here or there, we might have some plans in the works on that already too.
Right.
So don't worry, we're doing some very, very kind of customer-minded changes going forward here.
Eric. I think that is, in some ways kind of a little bit of a double-edged sword with Paizo. We do really always want to listen to what the audience says, and we want to make sure that the products that we create are maximally useful for the largest number of people. And I think over the years, when it comes to the Pathfinder Society scenarios in general, that effort to kind of one size fits all everything. Let's make it, whether it's a first level table or a fifth level table or a seventh level table, let's put that in. Oh, but then if there's 3 players, let's do this adjustment and that adjustment. Candidly, I was running some adventures last year, and I'm like, there's more appendix for modifying the adventure than there is adventure, and so this is going to really give us the opportunity to hone in on the story, to really improve these adventures and make them the best version of that story as we possibly can be. And as Thirsty said, we're going to keep our ears open. We'll modify things as they come, but we think this is the right decision for the campaign, and we're excited about what it's going to mean for the overall quality of the Pathfinder Society scenarios. And we thank all of our Pathfinder Society players, GMs, volunteers for all of your feedback, especially at Gen Con and elsewhere. Thirsty and I are headed for Gamehole Con in October. If you're going to be there, come talk to us. We are, look, I mean, Thirsty and I especially, we got our start in the organized play, stuff, whether for D&D or for Pathfinder or for other games, and it's near and dear to our hearts. So we'll be hitting a number of conventions over the year, listen to people, talk to people, and organized play is a super critical part of what we do. If you've been in that Sagamore ballroom at Gen Con, it's just electric, and it has kind of been our home base for a long time, and we're looking to strengthen that campaign, enrich the experiences of the players playing in those adventures, and we thank you for coming along with us on that journey. Speaking of journeys, Thirsty mentioned Pathfinder quests, which are old, what we used to do for short adventures for Pathfinder Society organized play. But Pathfinder Quest these days means a whole different thing, y'all. Now it means Pathfinder Quest adventure board game, which is coming to Backer Kit on September 16th. Before we jump into some Q&A on all this stuff we've talked about today, I do want to mention that. Go and check out, there should be a link in the chat. You can jump in on the Backer Party for the launch party for a Backer Kit. You can do that right now. That's a way to get regular updates on the campaign, do different activities with other backers, and we welcome everybody to check that out. And here is a really important reason why you're going to want to do it. Look at all these minis. Like, there's a version of this game where you can get minis. We'll be talking a lot about Pathfinder Quests in the very near future, I promise you. But I got the microphone right now, and I did just want to make the point that if you're interested in the Pathfinder Quest adventure board game, you're going to want to join that launch party at the link in the chat, because if you do, and then you back the campaign on September 16th, there's going to be a campaign exclusive campaign coin that you're only going to be able to get if you are participating in the launch party. So if that idea interests you at all, more details to come, but please jump into that launch party now. We would love to have you in there. Lots more information about Pathfinder Quest coming through that venue. A metal token? Are you serious? For free? Wow. What's even free anymore? Nothing. Okay, folks, I'll tell you one thing that's free. Answers from these fine fellows that I have here assembled today. I've got a passel. I love the word passel. I've got a passel of questions from the audience, and I'm going to serve them up to my colleagues here. And let's start with this one. Is there any chance of a Curse of the Crimson Throne update for 2nd edition Pathfinder? Bing?
I mean, we have the technology and the people and all of the stuff that we need to make any 1st edition adventure path remastered, 3.5 adventure paths even remastered. The switch to hardcover adventure paths will not make us stop doing compilations. We still got compilations on the schedule. We just announced less than an hour ago, the Season of Ghosts adventure path. We can't announce more than one of those an hour.
It would be wrong.
It would be vile.
Irresponsible.
It would be
Eric.
irresponsible.
Yeah,
it would be irresponsible.
But yeah, just keep letting us know which ones you want to do. I personally have my choices that I would like to do that are maybe not the best choices, but whatever.
You know what? You can't shoot that, James. If it were up to you and I was not involved,
I would
involved. What adventure path would you update to second edition and put out in hardcover?
I would do Second Darkness because that one we're missing a adventure in the middle of it that we thought GMs would love to add in. The entire structure and cast and population of the Darklands is different, so that one needs to, we were still feeling our way through, like what's different with our world than every other fantasy setting before, and we got a lot of stuff like elves being chaotic good but acting more lawful neutral and stuff like that. There's a lot of, it doesn't feel like Golarion, even though it's so foundationally a Golarion.
Eric's never going to take a vacation, because if he takes a vacation now, I'll just approve it on the schedule.
Well, guys, and like spoilers, that's actually my answer too. Like that, that's the one in some ways to me. That's the one that kind of got away a little bit. Like, I think that especially of those early handfuls, that's the one that I think probably could have benefited from a little bit more time in the hopper. And now we've had almost 20 years. So that's like a long time in the hopper. And for that matter, I also think, like, again, just like no spoilers. I'm not like literally like there's no connection to what I'm about to say with like what's coming out. But I would really love to see a second edition treatment of the Darklands in general. It's such an important part of the sort of ecology of the campaign setting. There's lots of stuff that we did early on to differentiate it from other games, Underworlds and things like that. I think in the meantime, we've tried to even shift things a little bit further. And it's just like such a ripe fruit for plucking when it comes to just like exploring new territory. I spent a lot of time working on Casmaron recently, which is our sort of ancient world, like Eastern campaign. But you're talking about a different part of expanding the campaign setting. How about underneath? How about down below? I think that's super, super exciting. So I don't know, guys. I might not even have to go on vacation to approve a Second Darkness hardcover. I haven't yet. Like, chat, don't freak out. But that's a good one. I like that idea. Daigle, which one would you bring back if it were just 100% up to you?
I think way too much about the logistics of it, and so like, in my head is like, no, this would be complicated because of like I've got way too many. Like I'll argue with myself logistically about things. I think that things, because I had a lot of people asking me like at Gen Con, people were like, when are you going to do? And I was like, well, I'm not announcing anything that's not announced, but what would you like to see? And like answers I got was Iron Gods, Reign of Winter, and Skull of Shackles were the three that I got the most frequently.
That was all got to be.
Yeah, those are all great choices.
On the request list. I would love to do any or all of those. Folks, not to get too commercial here, but if we put out these compilations and you want to see more and you don't quite get the one that you want, like, the way to get more compilations is to buy the compilations, to be totally honest, right? We started where like the owners of this company were like, we will never do compilations, you guys. It would be a huge mistake. And at the time, I think they were probably right, but we just tipped our toe into it with Rise of the Runelords. Then we followed up with Curse of the Crimson Throne, and now we've done like 5 or 6. And now that's the whole shebang. 2026 is they start as compilations. So, we're going to do more. Help us out by, buying them. Okay.
One interesting thing that just came to me is when we were doing them just monthly, there was never a way we could ever do them all because we were always making more than we could produce. But now that we're doing everything hardcover, technically by maybe next century, we could compile them all.
Okay,
it's no longer in a
good to have you here. Good run. Compiling them all. I don't know about that, but we
in one book.
Definitely. James just spoiled that we have the immortality solution.
Garth Marenghi omnibus. Oh my gosh.
2026 Gen Con Adventure Path is all of them from the beginning. We're just a big encyclopedia. Prepare. It'll be $79.99, and we're really excited to bring that level of value to all of you. Thank you for your support. Okay, folks. I got a Pathfinder game to go to, but we still have some more questions. So let's go a little bit long. Thirsty, what have you got?
I'm interrupting. Okay. Yeah. Chat, I got you. Again, there's a lot of Starfinder fans in here. I want to introduce you to this fellow right here. We at Gen Con announced Galactic Ancestries, a book that's going to be coming out early next year for Starfinder. This is a Leshy. This is a Moonflower Leshy. That is one of the heritages that you can get out of Galactic Ancestries.
That is hilarious.
There's your Starfinder preview. I got you, chat. Don't worry. Thanks for dropping that in there.
Wow. It's a Starfinder invasion here in the closing minutes of our panel.
It's cool because Moonflowers were created for Pathfinder, and Starfinder just snatched them because they have the
That's
moon
right. Just like we took the Leshy from.
We're on the same team now, guys. The games are compatible. It's amazing. So anything that comes out in Starfinder can be implemented in your Pathfinder campaign now, and vice versa. We are actually really excited about that, and a lot of you are too, based on commentary we got at Gen Con. So thank you for that. Let's hit a couple of more questions before I have to go play my own plant person in my friend's Pathfinder campaign right across town. All right. Will you be doing a compilation of older APs, Age of Ashes, Extinction Curse, and Agents of Edgewatch? Maybe update them to remaster as well. I mean, maybe anything's possible. I think some of those are probably a little bit more likely than others, but I think that's a great question, and we would like to do that. Here's a question, and I'm going to give this one to Daigle.
Uh-oh.
Daigle, are you ready?
I guess.
He is.
Asks, when will Cheliax learn to chillax?
You know, I think some people are just incapable of that.
How about never? Cheliax is never gonna chillax. Although there may be some changes in store. So it's going to be very interesting to watch throughout the Hellfire crisis. All right, let's see. A single AP author, Darth Kristoff says, a single AP author would be some kind of madman trying to shake a dead god's hand. Oh, isn't that interesting? That is a reference to my long-delayed Dead God's Hand adventure, which is not the single author adventure path that I mentioned. But it is done. So keep your eye out on the Paizo schedule, because that thing, woo boy!
It's
done.
not just done, it's developed.
It's developed. It's done.
We got art.
It's coming out. I promise. Like, there's
how many
no
extra pages did
Eric
you need, Eric?
Gagging, or having to dive into other projects, or having to work on, I don't know, a goddamn budget for 12 hours a day. Like, it's finished. And not only is it finished, this idiot over delivered by like, I don't know, 80, 90 pages or something like that. So it's coming. It's long, but it's not as long as the other insane person who wrote a full adventure path that may or may not be coming out in the summer of 2026. But God, we're not going to reveal what that is. Come on, you guys. Like, we gotta not spoil stuff in this. No. All right. Will Player's Guide still be PDF inclusions when they release in the new format? Yes. Oh, Thursday, here's an interesting question. I actually don't know the answer. I suspect I know the answer, but I don't. Will Pathfinder Society scenarios be repeatable in the new format? Will you be able to repeat the Pathfinder Society scenarios?
We've not announced that yet. That's one of those things we want to watch the feedback on for Pathfinder Society. We have just done that for Starfinder new campaign. We're testing out the waters, but we're gonna get feedback and see where it goes. And if people really want more repeatable content, we will be happy to provide it. So,
all right. Let's see here. We've got another good question here. Oh, Miraculous Water Bottle says, "You've convinced me. The art for Cheliax was great. Can I join their side in either adventure path?"
Talk to your GM.
I mean,
and it's a better chance if your GM doesn't really, if they're independently wealthy and they can spend all their time rewriting the entire thing.
Yeah, so that's a fair way of saying
as much as you can play paladins and Skull and Shackles or goblins in Rise of the Runelords. People can do it.
You can do it. But the default is going to be that Cheliax are the adversaries. If you are interested in playing an adventure path where you are on the side of Cheliax, and you don't mind converting from first edition, or indeed even playing first edition Pathfinder, we do have an adventure path in first edition, Hell's Vengeance adventure. That's what it was called, right? Hell's Vengeance. Yeah,
that was my first adventure path I wrote in AP for.
So, and it's written by a genius, you guys. So check out the Hell's Vengeance adventure path if you want to get your evil on. That's probably your best bet. If you want to kill some evil stuff or maybe just slap them around a little bit, Hellbreakers is going to be a great option for you. I'm going to check to see if we've got any other questions. I think I've got most of the questions that are relevant here. So let's kind of wrap this. Oh, yes.
I did see one. Somebody, the Chronomaster was asking, will there ever again be a 1st to 20th level adventure path, or have those been given up on entirely? Again, Hellbreakers and Hell's Destiny are kind of spiritually a 1st to 20th level adventure path. They're in 2 different books. They come out in one in the first quarter, one in the second quarter. But that is us sort of experimenting with a potential way to deliver a 1st to 20th level storyline. So definitely check that out. We don't have any 1st to 20th level new adventure paths on the schedule yet, but if we have the right story and we get out farther enough than ahead, I mean, it's possible. It's going to cost you guys a lot more to buy it because it's going to be a giant book.
Little more. It's going to cost a little more. It'll be totally affordable.
A little more. Oh, okay.
But it's also worth pointing out, the vast majority of first edition adventure paths play 1st to 20th, or at least very, very close 1st to 20th. And that is an archive from which we may, and indeed I think will draw in years to come when we do some of these compilations. So that certainly, but then keep an eye toward the 2 Hellfire Crisis adventure paths coming in 2026 as maybe a newer model for how we might pull that off. It's something that we absolutely want to do. But also, folks, it takes a long time to play 20 levels of adventure. And so we want to be able to give some kind of fun conclusions in the middle of that as well for people who are only there for half the journey. So yes, great question. Awesome. I'm going to wrap this up with a surprise question for each member of the panel that I'm going to put you guys on the spot. So get ready.
Oh, good.
Right? Okay. All right. We're going to start with, I'm going to go with the order that we started at the beginning, which is Thirsty, Daigle, James, in reverse order for how long you have been working on Pathfinder adventure paths. Here before God himself, before Razmir, and before the assembled group of audience here in the official Paizo chat, pitch me an adventure path right now. Thirsty, what adventure path off the top of your head would you like to see Paizo make?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, there's one I would have said, but we're doing it, so I can't actually say it. Yeah, exactly. Cheating. I'm cheating entirely. You all went with your own books for the first one. I'm going to go and just say actually Starfinder, because I can do that. I have powers. I would love to do a full adventure path that is my monstrosity called the Perplexity in Starfinder, which is a Starfinder mega dungeon that is all about when society missions go wrong and the ramifications of following up when Starfinders go bad.
Ooh, I love it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm not greenlighting anything in this meeting, but I did write it down. That's pretty good. All right. Adam Daigle, give me your best adventure path pitch with less than 2 minutes to think about it. What do you think we should do?
I would like to do something that explores folklore themes set in Arcadia.
Ooh. Arcadia, a lot of people want us to do more Arcadia content. That adventure path would fit like a glove in there. So folklore from an Arcadia perspective. Interesting. Okay. James Jacobs, you've been thinking about adventure paths pretty much more than anybody for the longest period of time, going back not just to Rise the Runelords, but indeed going back to our original formation at Paizo, where we were publishing Dungeon Magazine. You worked on Savage Tide, Age of Worms, and the Shackled City adventure path. With all of that vast adventure path experience behind you, what adventure path would you like to pitch here before God, Razmir, and the assembled people in the chat?
Guildmaker. The adventure path where you play characters who are criminals building your own thieves guild.
Yes.
In an unfortunate city that you get to unleash your criminal activities upon. Maybe with a little bit of like building your own neighborhood, you start out in like a burnt out section of the town, and yeah,
guys,
I want to give the bad guys something to do.
Yeah.
You're great at your jobs. I want to do all three of those. So let it be written. Appraise Razmir, coming your way. It's very soon. The Perplexity Mega Dungeon, Folklore in Arcadia, and Guildmaker. Woo!
Hey, I'll be running that Perplexity at GameholeCon. So that first adventure.
One other thing,
there.
Eric, you can't go to your Pathfinder game till you tell us which adventure path you want to do.
Yeah.
Oh boy, what adventure path I want to do. Well, I mentioned not too long ago that I'd spent a fair amount of time and effort this year writing material for Casmaron, and particularly Cardaji Bay part of Casmaron, which is where Iblados is. You can get a gazetteer that I co-wrote with John Compton on that whole area in the final Mythspeaker adventure path. And as I've been kind of really digging through everything we've ever said about Casmaron, which in and of itself, by the way, was like a multi-year project of just gathering every snippet of information, because I can't help but be kind of a fanboy continuity nerd, and so I got all that together. I think what I would do is a fall of the Padishah Empire of Kalesh, where all of the infighting finally collapses that whole giant empire, and you have all of these countries and indeed fledgling empires based off of the ancient world kind of living in real time, a Bronze Age collapse sort of event with mass migrations, horrible devastation, and a fight to kind of reestablish what the new order would be after the fall of an empire that's lasted more than 5,000 years. That's interesting to me, and that's something that I would, love to do at some point in time. I don't know if it's going to sell as well as Guildmaker, if I'm being 100%, but that would be my idea. So hopefully, chat, you have some cool ideas for Adventure Pass yourselves. Hopefully one of those 4 off the top of our head ideas sounds like a good match for you. So quickly, again, to recap what we've discussed, we have a format change coming for the Pathfinder Adventure Path. It will be 4 hardcover all-in-one campaigns starting in March of 2026 with the Hellbreaker Adventure Path, following that up in June with the Hell's Destiny Adventure Path. Then in August at Gen Con, we'll be doing the Adventure Path by one author. Oh my God, it's going to be so exciting. And then we'll have another one ready for the holidays. So 4 adventure paths. At the same time, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff tying into the Hellfire crisis. You saw information and images that Kent Hamilton drew of the Cheliax army. We're working on Andoran. There's going to be miniatures involved. Details TBD. Super, super exciting. And that will come into its most concentrated form in the Lost Omens Hellfire Dispatches sourcebook coming out in April. And then we also discussed the Season of Ghosts Adventure Path compilation coming out in February, and a new change to the format of Pathfinder Society organized play scenarios that will make them easier to play, easier to schedule, and hopefully raise the quality level just across the board. We are so happy to have been able to spend our Friday afternoon with you here on Paizo Live. Thank you so much for your support of the Pathfinder Adventure Path, going all the way back to the Floor of Origins at July 2007, all the way to almost 20 years later. Hey, look, by my count, Pathfinder Adventure Path monthly volumes hitting 221 volumes, I believe, makes it the second longest running monthly gaming periodical in the tabletop space, professional, right after Dragon Magazine, which hit 359. So not bad to come in second place to Dragon Magazine, but Pathfinder Adventure Path continues in a new format, hardcovers in 2026. For Paizo Incorporated, we have been Erik Mona, Thurston Hillman, James Jacobs, and Adam Daigle. Thank you so much for spending the last hour plus with us. We look forward to joining you again on an upcoming Paizo Live, where we'll have even more exciting stuff to share with you about upcoming Paizo releases. Please take a moment to jump over and sign up to the launch party for Pathfinder Quest if that interests you, and you'll qualify to get that coin if you ultimately back the campaign starting on September 16th. For Paizo, thank you all very much for your time and support, and we will see you at a future Paizo Live.
Dead God's hand is coming.
Yeah.